Hi, I'm Peter Langenecker, and welcome to my second office. It's now the time of the year where I move out here in the nature, and I absolutely love it. I mean, just have a look around yourself. All the nature here, the birds singing, the flowers coming out. It's just beautiful. I come out here to brainstorm, to take notes, and simply enjoy being in and with nature. And every then and when I also do my counseling sessions out here. But now, in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to share with you a step-by-step approach to define your meaningful purpose and how to live a life you love. Let's get started. So let's get started with the most important things you need to know about living a life you love. So this is for you if you can feel that something new is calling to you, but you don't know what it is. You feel the offness of what you're doing now, but you can't see what you're meant to do next. You're looking for practical inspiration to discern what this next phase of your life is meant to be. Or you're fairly clear about your bigger calling, but you can't possibly see how to transition from what you're doing now into the new work with ease and grace. You need help translating your calling into a viable course of action. Finally, this short training is for you if you want to find inner peace, balance and strength, as well as success and fulfillment. So imagine you could wave a magic wand and you live a meaningful life based on wisdom, on inner calm and energy, living a life you love. In schools we don't really learn about these things. We rather learn about facts and figures like Paris is the capital of France and 2 plus 2 is 4. Make a good career, have a family, be successful, buy stuff, and you will be happy. But success may fill your bank account, but not your soul. Therefore, this approach goes further. It is about meaningfulness, wisdom, and fulfillment. Maybe you have heard about Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a survivor of a concentration camp, and after his liberation he was writing a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And just to give you one quick detail, in the United States, in Washington DC, in the Library of the Congress, they have a list of the 100 most influential books for American history. Number 1 is the Bible, not a big surprise, but Frankl's book Man's Search for Meaning is number 7 out of 100 books. Very thin, but very profound. And I was lucky enough to meet Viktor Frankl when I was 27 years old, and he took me a little bit under his wings and shared his philosophy with me. And this goes like this. Frankl was always saying, most people measure their life on a line from 0% to 100%, on a line from failure to success. Now the question is, how do most people measure their success? I'm afraid at the end of the day, most people measure their success in money. Money and stuff you can buy with money. Cars, house, holidays, you name it. And that's perfectly okay. We must not forget, though, that there's another axis, an axis which goes all the way from fulfillment down to depression. And the question we should ask ourselves is, in which one of the 4 quadrants are we? I think you will agree if I claim, like Frankl did, that the nicest thing would be to be number 1, outside success, inside fulfillment. Number 4, neither nor, definitely the last thing. Number 3, outside failure, but inside fulfillment. Frankl was always saying, these are the monks in the Himalaya mountains. Not our culture, nothing to imitate, maybe to learn a little bit, but not copying, it's not our culture. But the sad thing, he said, is that in our culture, most people live in number 2. Outside, everything looks perfect, but inside, it's the big black hole. And then, to make things even worse, try to compensate a minus on the depression axis with the more on the success axis. More money, more cars, bigger house, you name it. And completely forget that in reality you would have to find a balance between these two axes, between inner fulfillment and outer success. And then of course the question is how to get there. And then Frankl was always saying there are 3 + 2 steps necessary. The 3 obvious steps are how, what, and why. How, for instance, is how can I learn a language, how can I develop a product, how can I ... and you fill in the blanks. What is, what are my goals? And this is where most people stop. So many people come to me and say, Dieter, I've been doing this in my life, been doing that in my life, crisscrossing, zigzagging around, maybe even been successful in material terms for a certain point of time. But then they come and say, there is still something missing. Why? And then I'm always saying, exactly because of just what we're saying. Because you have not found your why. You have not found an answer to the question, why am I really here on this planet, besides to make money, besides to make career, get recognition, and maybe raise children? Why am I really, really, really here? And then people say, sounds logic, sounds good, Dieter, help me to define my why. But then I have to tell them, we will not start with your why. We will have to go a little bit deeper first and foremost. We have to go into what is called the subconscious or unconscious. We have to see if there are not any blind spots, fears, blocks and concerns, or maybe even emotional woundings from the childhood which make it very difficult, almost impossible to define your why, and also impossible to access our inner wisdom. Because, at least in my philosophy, deep down we have all the answers, we have the wisdom, we simply have not learned how to access it. So let's look at each step one by one. So how can you deal with these inner issues? First, fears, blocks and concerns. List them out in full detail. Second, for each fear, block or concern, brainstorm what is the worst thing that could happen if this really came true. And third, brainstorm proactively what you can do to minimize the risk it is really going to happen. Next, core wounds, emotional woundings from your childhood. Make a list of all the woundings you can remember. So what are core wounds, emotional woundings from your childhood? Usually I'm not talking in black and white, but in this case I do. Because I claim that all of us, no one can escape it, in our childhood we have experienced some kind of emotional woundings. This can be that dad was saying, why don't you know this, why don't you know that? Your brother, your sister in your age already was able to do this. Or mom is saying, you always have to be nice, you always have to be helpful, otherwise people will not like you and you will end up alone. Or grandmother is dying, or our parents get divorced, we are bullied at school. All kind of different things happening to us subconsciously, causing emotional woundings. So make a list of all the wounds you are aware of, but then also at the same time write down what are the upsides, what are the core gifts, what are the skills, abilities, what have you learned, what are you able to do, which would not have been possible if it would not have been for the core wounds. Example, for instance, my core wound was that I had a younger brother, 5 years younger, and my mother's attention obviously was going to him when he was born. So I thought, my goodness, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough. And I developed what is called a people pleaser syndrome, a helper syndrome. My belief was I have to be nice to other people before I can ask for something. The positive side of this was that afterwards, for instance, at the age of 27 approximately, I learned to give presentations. I was teaching presentation techniques. And if you tell me today, Dieter, you have to talk in front of 1,000 people, I love it. Because trust me, if you stand in front of 1,000 people and get a standing ovation, this is really attention. Short-lived, I agree on this, but I would never have learned it if it would not have been for my core wound, for my need to overcome this feeling of not being good enough and for getting attention. I have a client, and she's always telling the story. Her father was a diplomat. They were moving around the world every 3 to 4 years. She made some friends in kindergarten, next country. Some friends in primary school, next country. She really didn't like it. It was her core wound. But nowadays she is speaking 5 languages fluently. So every negative side, every coin has 2 sides, a positive side. Or, with other words, it's not only the holes in the cheese, it's the cheese itself. So make a list of what your core wounds are and also what are the upsides of your core wounds. Once you have started dealing with this subconscious phase, let's now tune into the visionary part of yourself that is calling you forward. Let's move to the why, what for part. And the easiest way to find your why or your what for is to answer the following question. Why am I really here on this planet besides to have a career, make money, get recognition, and maybe raise children? Why am I really, really, really here in non-material terms? You can answer this question intellectually by simply thinking about it and writing the answers down, or doing meditation, taking walks in nature, reading books, or talking to your partner or friends or a counselor. And then you move to the next phase, the what phase. Ask yourself, what actions do you need to take in order to make the why real? And there are 2 categories of actions, outer actions and inner actions. Outer actions, for instance, are to write a book, to start a company, to make a movie, to develop a workshop, to work for an NGO, to have a website, to have a business card, all the outer actions. But equally, if not even more important, a list of inner actions. For instance, I have to deal with my fears, I have to deal with my core wounds, I have to learn to be more empathic, I have to learn to be a good listener, all the inner things which are needed in order to be able to implement your why. And this then brings you to the next level, to the how level. And for this you have to answer for yourself the following questions. Where do I want to be in 12 months' time from today? What are your goals for the next 3 months? What is your main goal for the next month? What is your main goal for the next week? And what is your first step within the next 48 hours to get going? And to keep on going, every evening I would strongly recommend you to answer the following 3 questions for you. First, to write down 3 small things you experienced today and you're grateful for. This is the classical grateful exercise, but not just things like the sunset or the smile of a child. Also things we take for granted, like we have a roof over our head, we are healthy, we have hot water, we have our limbs, all the things we take for granted. 3 things you're grateful for. And then 2 small things you did today and you're really feeling good about it. And 1 thing you would be doing differently if it happened again. If I had a discussion with someone, I would write down, next time I talk with this person or with someone else about the same topic, I'll try to be more patient. If you do this on a regular basis, in writing, in a journal, and just have a look at it, let's say once a month or maybe even once a week, it's incredible the feeling it creates inside you, the energy it creates inside you, how much you have been able to achieve, and how good at the end of the day life is for you. So a quick review on how to live a life you love. First, you become aware of and deal with your core wounds, fears, blocks, and concerns. Next, you find your answer to the question, why am I really here on this planet? And next, you list all the outer and inner steps needed to implement your why, and then you set long-term, medium-term, and short-term goals, and you maintain the momentum by keeping track of your progress, the cheese and not the holes in the cheese approach. Now you have 2 options. First, you can use the information I just gave you and try to put the system together on your own. Your second option is to get my help. If you're interested in having me support you on your journey, just click the button below and I'll email you all the details. If we decide to work together, I will create for you a customized version of the approach I just taught you. I only work with a handful of clients who I think I can truly help. So if you want more details about my counseling, click the button below to send me an email, and I'll get you all the details. Thanks for watching this training. Hope you got a lot of value from it. Looking forward to seeing you.